Hey everyone. Have you ever noticed how some people just have that knack for storytelling? They can hold you completely captivated, hanging on to every word.
It's really an art, isn't it?
Totally. You wonder if it's something you're born with or if it's a skill you can learn. Like, is there some secret formula to being a great storyteller?
Well, I wouldn't say there's a secret formula exactly, but there are definitely some key principles that can make a huge difference.
Okay, so not magic then.
Right, not magic, though the best storytellers can certainly make it seem that way. But really, it's about understanding how to structure a narrative, how to craft it in a way that truly resonates.
So it's more about having a blueprint, a sort of framework to build on.
Absolutely. And, it's surprising how often people overlook the very basics. A strong story needs a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in the details that we forget about the big picture.
Exactly. And it's not just about having these three parts, it's about understanding their function. The beginning sets the stage, introduces us to the characters and the world. The middle, that's where the conflict unfolds, the stakes are raised, and we really get drawn into the story.
And then the end, that's where everything comes together, right?
Exactly. The end is where we get the payoff, that sense of resolution. It satisfies our need for closure.
I guess it's kind of like a journey. You need a destination in mind and a clear path to get there.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of journeys, a really important aspect of storytelling is pacing. Think about a time when someone just bombarded you with information all at once.
Ugh, I hate that. It's like you can't even process it all.
Exactly. It's like being hit with a fire hose of facts and figures with no room to breathe. And the same thing happens in storytelling. If you have these huge information dumps, it just kills the momentum.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Giving enough information to keep the audience engaged, but not overwhelming them.
Exactly. We need those moments of reflection, pauses that allow the emotional impact of events to sink in.
It's like with music.
Right.
You need those variations in tempo and rhythm to create a piece that's truly captivating. You can't just blast everything at full volume the whole time.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of being captivating, one of the most crucial elements of storytelling is creating an emotional connection.
Yeah, I think that's what separates a good story from a great one. A story that just stays with you long after you've heard it.
You're absolutely right. Think about the stories that have really impacted you. They likely made you laugh or cry or maybe even question your own perspectives.
Because they tapped into something deeper, something universal.
Exactly. They resonated with your own experiences, your hopes, your fears. And sometimes the most powerful stories come from a place of vulnerability.
Yeah, when someone is willing to share their own struggles, their own triumphs, it makes them more relatable somehow.
Absolutely. We connect with authenticity. When someone lets down their guard, it creates a sense of intimacy and trust. It makes us feel like we're not alone in our experiences.
I remember this one time I was trying to explain to a friend how stressful it was juggling a demanding job with family commitments, and I was just listing all these tasks and responsibilities. But it didn't really hit home until I shared a specific anecdote.
And I bet that's when your friend truly understood what you were going through.
Exactly. It's like they got a glimpse into my world.
Because suddenly it wasn't just an abstract concept, it was a relatable human experience.
It made it real, It wasn't just me complaining. It was like they could actually feel what I was going through.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about making people feel things. Anecdotes can be really powerful for explaining complicated concepts, too. Think about, have you ever had to sit through one of those presentations where it's just statistics, statistics, statistics?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's like my brain just shuts off after a while.
Yeah.
It's just too much information.
Yeah. Exactly. And it all just seems so impersonal, right? Just numbers on a screen.
Yeah, like it's hard to connect with.
But imagine if instead of just throwing those statistics at you, they told you a story. Like about a real family struggling to make ends meet. Suddenly, those numbers have faces, real people behind them.
It's like it makes it more human.
Exactly. And that's why case studies are so effective. They show you how things actually work in the real world.
So it's not just theory. It's like, okay, here's how this actually played out.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And, speaking of making things real, one thing that often gets overlooked in storytelling is the power of questions.
Oh, interesting. I usually think of questions as a way to get information, not as a storytelling tool.
But think about it, when someone asks you a question, it makes you think, right?
Yeah. Makes you stop and consider things.
Exactly. So instead of just saying something like, climate change is a serious issue, You could ask, what kind of world do we want to leave for our children?
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
It's more engaging, right? It draws people in.
Yeah, totally. And it's not as like preachy.
Exactly. It lets people come to their own conclusions. And, when it comes to crafting a good story, one thing people often struggle with is the ending.
Oh, yeah. It's like they spend so much time on the beginning and middle, and then the ending just feels rushed.
Exactly. And the ending is so important. It's your last chance to really make an impact.
Yeah, to leave a lasting impression.
Exactly. Think about it like this. If you're telling a story about overcoming some obstacle, you could end with a powerful statement, something that sums up what you learned, or maybe even ask a question that makes people think.
It's like you're giving them something to take away with them.
Exactly. And a well-crafted ending can even spark new ideas, things that go beyond the story itself.
I love that. It's like planting a seed.
Exactly. So we've talked about a lot here, from the importance of structure and pacing to the power of emotions and things like asking questions and crafting a good ending.
And it's amazing how all these things work together to make a story truly captivating.
It really is. And the best part is anyone can become a better storyteller.
That's so encouraging.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone has a story to tell.
Absolutely. And the more you pay attention to these techniques, the more you'll start to see them everywhere.
Like in movies, books, even commercials.
Exactly. It's like you start to see the world in a whole new way.
Yeah, and it makes you appreciate the art of storytelling even more.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a whole new layer of understanding.
it really is. And the thing is, once you start to see these patterns, you can't unsee them. It just enriches your experience as a listener, but it also empowers you to be a better storyteller yourself.
Totally. So it's win-win, right? We get
Yeah.
to enjoy stories more, and we get better at telling our own.
Exactly. And one of the most rewarding things about storytelling is the connection it creates. When you share a story that resonates with someone, it's like you're building a bridge between you.
Oh, I totally get that.
Yeah.
It's like when you recommend a book to a friend and they love it.
Right. It's like you've shared this little piece of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why stories have always been so powerful. They help us pass down traditions, share knowledge, connect with each other on a deeper level.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the impact a single story can have. It can inspire, educate, entertain. It can even spark change.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it that way. A
Yeah.
story can really change the world.
It really can. And, in a world that often feels so divided, the power of storytelling to bring people together to remind us that we're all connected, I think it's more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I've learned so much from this conversation. I'm definitely feeling inspired to step up my own storytelling game. Any last words of advice for our listeners out there?
Just remember that every story matters. Whether it's, some epic adventure or just something that happened to you today, it's worth sharing. So don't be afraid to use your voice, experiment, and see what happens.
Love that. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the art of storytelling. Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Until next time.